ask one huge favor? I'm excited to be here. I'm going to gush over all of you. But if Miss Moreno, if you would actually say my name so I can tell everyone in my family that you call me Stacey, I will be a queen.
Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams, Stacey Abrams. How's that?
Okay.
Is your family watching?
Awesome, but I'm leaving now. So.
I want to talk to you about the female orgasm.
This feels right.
Yes!
Mommy, you stay out of my love life.
I made you a profile on Tinder.
Says lonely Catholic nurse seeks big, strong man to fill the hole in her life?
You might want to reword that.
Someone opens the door that they shouldn't.
You walked in on Alex.
He walked in on me.
If they leave me, it'll just be you and me.
Dear God, you gotta get them back.
I love being alone. We're strong women who don't need a partner to define us. Anyway, I have a date.
No! So good. This family needs boundaries.
Boundaries are for white people. Next thing you know, we're eating Lunchables in separate rooms and Grandmama lives in a home.
Hi, I'm Brent Miller, one of the executive producers of One Day at a Time. Welcome to PaleyFest LA. Thank you to PaleyFest's official card, City, for helping to make this event possible. And of course, thanks to the festival for honoring our show. This program is presented by the Paley Center for Media, a nonprofit organization dedicated to honoring excellence in television through education programs, great conversations with the stars and storytellers of critically acclaimed series, and the preservation of television's creative legacy through the Paley Archive. To learn more and to become a member, please visit paleycenter.org. Now, let's get started with our panel. One Day at a Time is our heartfelt comedy about a Latinx family tackling life, well, one day at a time, just like all of us. The series, led by our brilliant showrunners, Mike Royce and Gloria Calderon Kellett, who are here with us today, balances powerful storylines, touching on some of the most important issues that we're facing today, while never losing sight of comedy. Quite simply, this is a show that unites us all through the power of shared laughter. In addition to our showrunners, joining us today is our incredibly talented series regulars, Justina Machado, Rita Moreno, Isabella Gomez, Marcel Ruiz, Todd Grinnell, and Stephen Tobolowsky. And as a special treat for fans, a few of our guest cast members have also taken the time to zoom in. Please welcome Ed Quinn, Sheridan Pierce, Raquel Justice, and India de Beaufort. Now, I'd like to introduce our moderator, voting rights warrior, Stacey Abrams. In addition to being a New York Times best-selling author of Lead from the Outside, she's a serial entrepreneur, a nonprofit CEO, and political leader. Her most recent book, Our Time Is Now, was released in last month, and I urge all of you to go buy it through your local bookstore. Over the course of her career, she has founded multiple organizations devoted to voting rights, training and hiring young people of color, and tackling social issues at both the state and national levels. After serving 11 years in the Georgia House of Representatives, 7 as minority leader, Abrams became the 2018 Democratic nominee for the governor of Georgia, where she won more votes than any other Democrat in the state's history. In 2019, Abrams launched Fair Fight to ensure every American has a voice in our election system, and Fair Count to ensure accuracy in the 2020 census and greater participation in civic engagement. And what most people don't know is Stacey Abrams and Norman Lear have a history of working together since Abrams was part of the Young Elected Officials Network, a program of People for the American Way in which Norman founded. Stacey, we are honored to have you moderate this conversation today, and now I'll hand it off to you.
Brent, thank you for such a generous introduction. Thank you to all of you for letting me come and be a part of this team. I actually watched the original One Day at a Time, and when I learned that it was being reimagined, I was skeptical until I saw the first episode. And what you all have done to not simply update the show, but to tell a new story that keep the theme and the humanity alive has just been something miraculous to watch. I watch an inordinate amount of television. I love TV, and I am a hypercritic. And when I tell you that what you have done Brent and Gloria and Mike, what you have accomplished with the show is something incredible. But I want to start with the person whose reimagined role has been the centerpiece of the story, Justina. I remember I very clearly remember the matriarch and the central themes. Talk a little bit about what it means to be Penelope in the 21st century, what it means to fit into this time and to be one of the few shows that truly has a grounded Latinx representation that isn't based on shtick, but is based on the soul and humanity of your family.
I mean, you said it right there, Stacey Abrams. I'm so happy to talk to you. We're all fangirling, fanboy. Okay, so it means the world to me. I always say that I always wanted to do something important with my art. I always wanted to do it, but there's not a lot out there. You know, now there's more coming out there because of warriors like these wonderful executives who have made this show. But it's been a long time coming, and it feels incredible to represent so many people, to represent so many ways of life, to represent our people, to change that narrative that is always out there about us, to make it a family, a specific Cuban-American family that's here. They're immigrants, they work hard, they love each other, they love hard, and it's just, I feel really honored and privileged to be a part of history, because One Day at a Time is a historical show in my opinion. So I feel incredibly honored to be a part of this history and to be the matriarch of this family with these incredible people around me, with the iconic Rita Moreno and the icons to come up, Isabella Gomez and Marcel Ruiz, and of course, Stephen Tobolowsky, the icon, and of course, my favorite, Todd Grinnell. I just love all of these people so much. So I feel so honored to lead this group, to be a part of it, to even that you even said that I was the matriarch and I ground this thing. It just means everything to me. So I could say that it has been the greatest 4 seasons of my career.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, I want to talk to you about this moment that we're in. We are in the midst of global crises, but also a conversation about what the world should look like. And I think to anyone watching this today, they understand that One Day at a Time is not just a play on words. Can you talk about how this show and how this theme fits into this current moment?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that every time I say a word, I'm aware that it's a word that Stacey Abrams could be saying. So I just feel like I'm taking up space needlessly right now.
You may have to add me to the show, Brent, just so we're clear.
I think we have an offer that is...
Right now, keep talking. I read it. I've got free time. Go ahead.
I mean, our stories come from this family, and we fit any story that has a bigger societal impact has always been after a lot of discussion in the writers' room about how it impacts his family. It has to come from the characters itself. So we never want to catch ourselves sort of preaching or just doing an issue show without any tether to human beings. And this particular, I mean, there's so many, these last 3 months have produced upheaval in 12 things where one of them would be a decades-long discussion. So any little part of that we can be a part of, I think, with this animated show that we just did, we're very proud to have at least, I think what I was the most proud of was we tried to talk about issues that have built along all the last few years, not simply sort of responding to the exact thing that's happening right now, but there's been a lot of stuff especially the last few years. And I think we wanted to make sure that maybe we, if the episode a little bit is a referendum on who you're going to vote for and how you talk to people about who you're going to vote for, we wanted to sort of delve into, like, let's not forget this thing that happened, and let's not forget this other thing that happened, because that's sort of the way the news cycle works now. So hopefully we kind of were able to encompass a lot of different issues within that episode.
So Gloria, to pick up on that, in the wake of the 2018 election, I started 2 organizations because I wanted to tackle some critical issues. One is Fair Fight, which is fighting for voter protection and voter access around the country. Fair Fight 2020, which is doing this in 18 states, and Fair Count, because I thought about how weaponized the census has become, but also how vital it is to how we allocate resources, both economic and political power. And I will tell you that had I just talked to you ahead of time, I wouldn't have gone through the trouble, because what I think you did with the census episode, checking the boxes, and the politics episodes really encapsulate so much of this moment, both of crisis and of contention, but also the conversation of how we claim the next moments of our lives. Can you talk about not only those episodes and what led to them, but also why you decided to tell the stories in that way?
I think, it all starts from the writer's room. It all starts from us gathering and talking about what's important to us and our families. And we have such an extraordinary group of writers, and it's such an inclusive and diverse room, that those conversations, specifically for people of color, have not really changed. The only thing is now in this moment, it feels like other people are taking notice finally, but every Black and brown person I'm talking to is like, oh my God, now they're talking about it. That's great, because we need this to be, it's about all of us, and it has to be an issue for all of us. And so the moment that we come together and say, this is important, equality is important, what does that look like? How as a society can we come together, and how can we do that in story? So what Norman has done forever, and what we try to do with the legacy of what Norman has laid out so beautifully for us, is that he held up a mirror, and he also invited people into homes that they weren't not normally privy to. And with our show, we literally, it's the sitcom set, which is a living room where conversations get to happen. And so here we have this family talking about, we don't necessarily feel like the show is political. It's just, it's political being Latino. It's political being a person of color. It's political being LGBTQ, because these are the issues that are day to day people are fighting for their equality and for their human rights. So we're just talking about the things that these people are talking about in their homes. And, when I brought in the idea about, I was talking to a cousin who's a conservative, a Cuban in Miami who's conservative, and we were talking about this election and specifically this person and why it's different now. It feels different. Everyone in that room, whether they were Latino or not, had a similar story. Our LGBTQ writers were talking about how difficult it is for them whenever they have a conservative family member that's voting against their civil rights. And how do you have that conversation and say, hey, you love me, but what you're doing is an act of violence towards me. Your vote is an act of violence towards me, right? So having these conversations and saying, we are now in a time where we have to find a way to build bridges. And as storytellers and as actors and artists, that's what we're trying to do in the work. We're trying to entertain, but we're also trying to sneak in some broccoli, into that meal. And it's incredible. It's such an incredible opportunity to get to make this show, to get to laugh, to get to sit together and talk about these things that we really, really care about, and hope that it reaches through the television screen to people at home and models behavior or encourages them to have conversations in their own home. So, really to echo what Justina and Mike were saying, it's a privilege to be able to do this type of storytelling with this group of people. I'm looking at each of these people and thinking about the casting of each one of them and how they each walked into the room and saved our life. Each of these people, including Raquel and Ed and Sheridan, they came into the room and it was like a gift, and that we all get to do this together. And it is a love fest on that set because we know the weight of it and we carry it very proudly. So it's a thrill to be able to have this conversation in this moment.
Gloria, bravo. Wow. So really, really, that was marvelous. It was heartfelt, and I'm very moved. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. My God.
Well, that actually is a perfect segue. If Justina plays the matriarch, Miss Rita Moreno, you are the epicenter of everything you're in. and your Lydia does not allow for others to not see her, even when
Well,
she's.
I am noisy.
Well, even behind that curtain, there's movement and action, and then you emerge. Can you talk about just how Lydia fits into this extraordinary filmography that you have of memorable roles that always carry not just heart, but really speak to the human moment that you're inhabiting, and particularly I'm getting tongue-tied and I have words written down for me, but it doesn't matter. You are one of those people who's always lived your art, and you've always embodied stories that tell the real story. Can you talk about how Lydia and how this reimagining fits into your work and your legacy?
First of all, as an actress, I adore playing Lydia because she's so big. And I'm not exactly tiny myself. Justina will tell you that I have a big mouth. And I may be a short person, but I have big opinions. And Lydia is a joy for me. She's a dream come true. She's all of the exaggerations of the people of my community and my little island of Puerto Rico. She's all of the bigness of that. She is, what also is lovely about it is that whatever her vain notions are, she does love her family and she cares. And it shows beautifully in some of the episodes where she is either going to accept the granddaughter's homosexuality or not. And of course she does, because she says she's family, I love her. So it's a way of her saying, I have to understand this. Even though I may not, I have to find a way in which to understand this. So I love her for many reasons. I love her vanity, which is absolutely hilarious. I mean, this is a woman who has no shame whatsoever and will flirt with a fence post. I mean, she has the nerve, the temerity to flirt with her daughter's boyfriends, for Pete's sake, Ed Quinn. But then I can understand that. Ed Quinn is quite a gorgeous hunk of meat, right? I know that's very crude. I'm crude. Ed Quinn is yummy. And we all know it, and we all get all crazed about it, and we sweat a lot, and then nobody admits it.
He doesn't need to hear it anymore.
I'm done. Thank you guys. I'm out. Good. Cut that tape. That's all I need.
For God's sake.
For the rest of your life, that's all you needed, right?
Oh, that's it. My new reel.
Flirt with my daughter's boyfriend. But other than that, here's the marvelous thing that the writer's room, but I'm really saying Gloria and Mike and Norman and Brent did for this character, because it's very easy for Lydia to be way past bigger than life. It's very easy to give her wisecracks all the time and not give her any character and not give her any depth, because she's so big and she's so Latina and so proudly Latina. But when I asked on the phone on the conference call before this all happened, can she be sexual? I want her to be a sexual person. Just because she's old doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of stuff going on in there. And the writers and Norman happily, immediately, like in a chorus, said, yes, that would be wonderful. And they did it, and they kept their promise, to the point where sometimes I would say, wait a minute, you sure you want to do this? So it's marvelous to give a character like this such depth. That's unusual. But before anything, I walked out for a second to show you something, Ms. Abrams, because I could not resist. This is what this is.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing.
That's Sammy Davis Jr. and me at the March on Washington.
March on Washington, yes, ma'am.
I just got this. This was in the Hollywood Reporter.
Oh, that's extraordinary.
I thought you might enjoy looking at it.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Well, in real life, you are an activist, and you have a granddaughter, Elena. Isabella, you play this activist who is a woman of no unexpressed opinions and no shyness about sharing your knowledge with the world. how do you think Elena would fit into this moment that we're in? I know that because of COVID-19, there have been challenges to how we have expressed what we need to see, but how would you situate both Elena and Isabella in this moment in our country?
I mean, I think Elena this is what she lives for, is moments like this and being able to talk about moments like this and being able to take advantage of awful things happening and make them worth the while, right? So, I mean, I think Elena, COVID-19 or not, would be at every single protest and would drag along all of her family, masks, of course, and getting tested all the time, but she would be there. And I think that's what's wonderful. I think Elena is such a representation of my generation and how involved we want to be and how aware we want to be and how educated we are and are hoping to be and become more so as time goes on. And I think, especially right now with everything going on, we, not only this country, but the world has been forced to really take a look at what's going on and introspect and figure out how are we going to change this and what are the steps forward. And I think more and more there are people like Elena around, which I think is the most wonderful. And I always say Elena has kind of raised me, and I am a much better person for playing her, and I am so much more empathetic and educated and aware. And I think that's what Elena would be trying to do in the real world if she was here. And I feel very lucky that there are a lot of people like her right now.
Thank you. Well, Marcel, you play Alex. He has gone through a lot of changes, especially since the first season. He has this sort of grudging love and respect for his family, although you can tell if he had a chance to rewrite some of their stories, he would do it differently. But you, particularly this year, Alex, dyed his hair, he got a girlfriend. He is continuing to become more and more of an independent character. Can you talk about what it's meant to be him, especially given where the story for Alex started and where he's situated today?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing experience since the start, and it's crazy because I didn't notice that when we started, I was at that age where, as a teenager or starting those teenage years, every month your look changes. So like I didn't notice until it happened. And now I see that like timeline from season 1 to season 4, and it's a very big change. But being the only guy in the family and in the house, I think he did have to step up, and even though, I mean, he's still learning and growing up and has, an amazing sister that he's always kind of competing with, but also learning from. I guess he's still learning, but he always has his family's backs. And the great thing that I love about Alex is that each year it just got more and more accurate, where I could relate to a real kid in Los Angeles. I mean, it has a lot of things that I would go through. I mean, I'm from Puerto Rico and I moved here when I was 9, and right when I got here, I was dealing with the same things that he was dealing at school with racial slurs and just the social life as a teenage boy. And I think especially at this age, he's also just experimenting with his looks and stuff like that, just like I am, where in quarantine for no reason, I dyed my hair pink.
Life choices, man.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, I'm going to bring you back into the conversation. And I want you to speak to Norman Lear. I know he wasn't able to join us today, but given his legendary achievements in television, can you comment on how this show, like so many of the progressive and risk-taking shows he created, how this show challenges the status quo and inspires social progress?
I think Gloria, kind of summed it up in her answer. I think that Norman started years ago, not intentionally to break down these walls, break down these barriers. He was standing on the shoulders of people that came before him. But as she said, what he did was he enjoyed holding up a mirror to America so that he could talk about stories that mattered and about stories that people were discussing, in the safety of their own homes. And he wanted to maybe bring it out there. And I think that, by laying down, the initial thought of let's have these conversations and talk about things that people want to talk about but might be afraid to talk about. If they see it on national television, it gives them permission to, in a sense, continue that conversation. I think that, you know, he learned quickly that was the right path to take. And what Gloria and Mike have done so beautifully have not only paid homage to, you know, what the original show was, but have really maintained the brand of what Norman established, intentionally or not, all those years ago. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I can say safely that it wasn't something that Norman sought out to do when he created All in the Family. He sought out to essentially write a slice of life. And I think he did that, and he continued to do it, and noticed very quickly where there were holes in the marketplace, if you will, that needed to be represented. And all these years later, here we are again, finding a hole in the marketplace that was never filled, and one day at a time, representing a Latinx family. So, you know, I don't, like I said, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I think that ultimately, you know, if he was here right now, he would throw it to Mike and Gloria and say he owes everything to the two of them and what they've done to make him look very good, and me for that matter.
And if I may add, it's Norman Lear who thought of Brent, and who thought of Mike, and who thought of Gloria. That's what a great producer does. People often say, what do producers do? That's what producers do, among many, many other things, aside from also trying to get the money to fund these kind of shows. But he's a fellow who said, you know who I think would be great for this idea? I think Mike and Royce and Gloria Calderon Kellett would be good. And I think Rita Moreno might be a wonderful Lydia, and so forth. You can't do it without a Norman Lear and a Brent Miller. You just can't.
Well, I'm done too. Bye, guys.
Here you go. Well, speaking of reimagination and reinvention, Todd, your version of Schneider is completely different than the one I saw when I grew up. This is an upgrade, and not, with all due respect to the original actor. Yeah. Can you talk about what it means to play that character? And then India, if you'll talk just a little bit about the relationship that you all have brought. I mean, watching the two of you, watching Schneider and Avery's relationship, such a joy. If you could just talk first about, you know, inhabiting this very iconic role, and then this update that is spot on.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I can go now. I'm done.
All you had to do was say our names, honestly.
First of all, I just want to say it's an honor to be here with you, Madam President. I'm projecting.
Bravo!
But no, that was very kind of you to say. And I was a huge fan of the show growing up, and so I was like keenly aware of what Pat Harrington Jr. did with the role, and I'm a huge fan of his. But we got to do something different, and I think it's I was very hesitant to try to fill his shoes in the beginning, and I feel like I stepped into some shoes sort of beside his shoes, which was an honor. And for me, it's just been a real gift. Like Justina said, I've always wanted to do something important with my art and be involved in a project that had an impact in the world. And so, for Schneider to kind of represent the face of white privilege on this show has been just a really amazing thing. I think if there's a way for people to kind of connect to Schneider and realize as he's realizing some of his ignorance and learn things, that's like it's just been really interesting to see that happen and to play that. And to I think about the episode, like the episode where I come in the Che Guevara t-shirt and I have no idea what's going on. I feel like that's a lot of people in the world today, like are doing things and saying things and not understanding the full impact of how they've been able to grow up and live. And so, to have Schneider sort of have his eyes opened on an episode basis has been a really cool thing to watch, and I feel like that's helped a lot of people who watch the show feel the same thing. It's a huge honor.
Todd actually has a picture of Pat in his dressing room. He's had it since the pilot, I think.
Yeah.
He has a picture of Pat in costume with Schneider. Gives a little signal before each show.
Yeah. And to get to work with this one has been like the biggest thing. We never get to work together. So it's like, it's the funnest thing in the world.
And also as we have a son, and the first season that I was working on the show, I had just given birth and was struggling with postpartum depression, you know, all the kind of things that a lot of new moms go through. And working with Glo and Mike and the rest of the cast and the crew, everybody was so incredibly understanding and supportive of that, and supportive of breastfeeding and supportive of all those things. So it was actually the best first job to have, coming back from having our son. And he was upstairs asleep in our dressing room the night that we shot the finale of that season, and we're kissing downstairs on the set. And so for us, this show is not just another job, it's a part of our history as a family. And we couldn't be more proud to have Crosby grow up with such a beautiful influence from his Latino and Latina Latinx community. He's a lot of tias now. And he's the luckiest little boy on the planet. He is in tios.
Thank you. So Stephen, I have watched you. You are an amazing character actor. And again, I could creep all of you out by listing all the things that you've ever done. But what I love so much about Dr. Berkowitz is, and the relationship you have with Lydia, is it's one of the first times I think we've gotten to see the complexity, the pathos that you have. There's a compassion and a friendliness that a lot of your previous characters haven't given you the space to grow in. Can you talk a bit about being in this role and being in this family, especially the relationship you have with Lydia?
Stacey, you have put your finger right on the pulse of Dr. Berkowitz. I think one thing that's so unique about this show is that a lot of times writers and creators put a lot of comic stock in having a character pursue what they've lost, because that could be kind of funny. But they rarely give a character space to pursue what gives them life. Because that's much more challenging. If you take a look at Dr. Berkowitz, I did everything right. Everything right. I went to medical school. I got married. I had a family, and it all crashed and burned. And rather than pursuing what I've lost, these guys allowed me to pursue what gives me life, which I think gives a great deal of compassion and depth to a character that normally would be a subject of bald jokes.
Oh, lovely.
And I get to work with Rita.
May I just add that we crack each other up something fierce. We both think that we are the funniest people in the world.
Well, I think Rita is, but I'll let her think I am occasionally.
You do one another justice. So Ed, I've loved you since Eureka.
Wake up, Ed.
I know, wake up, exactly.
I'm here.
So
Hi,
I've
Stacey.
Eureka, but getting to see you at the dinner scene when Penny was trying to date before she realized you'd abandoned her to go to Indonesia, that was a different side of you that I hadn't seen before, and I enjoyed it. So can you talk about talk about the relationship? Because one of the grounding parts of the show is not just that there is a ready-made family, but how they build family, and how Max has helped Penny realize who she can be, both as a mother and as a girlfriend, as someone who has multiple facets to her life. Can you talk a bit about being that person and being the most beloved boyfriend, I think, currently on television today?
Well, I think what's really humbling and just is so wonderful is that if you know Justina, the artist and the person, I mean, she's such a powerhouse. She's like this predator. She's so decisive in everything she does and she wants to do. And then you marry that with Penelope, with this incredible role that Gloria and Mike created, this like 21st century alpha female, the single mom, the working mom, the veteran. But every once in a while, you know, a girl wants to meet a boy, and you know, that can be a pretty tall order. That's for you, Gloria. No, and so it's what's so amazing is it was just so organic, the way that the whole relationship evolved, getting the role, how Justina and I worked together, and it allowed the character of Penelope to blossom in this whole different way. And you know, and again, I really want to go back to the writers. You know, I came in season 2, and the show was so incredibly tight, and every actor is you know, so inhabits their real estate, that to somehow create space for another character, and to, like you said, make it part of the family, and make it sort of, you know, create relationships with each character. I think it's such a feat of writing, and it's such a feat of character and generosity. And so yeah, this has been one of my favorite experiences. I am such a fan of old Hollywood. I'm such a fan of show business, and I don't think there's anything better than a multicam, because, like Gloria said earlier, it really is, you know, it's all about a living room and a conversation and personal relationships, and it's also, you know, the lights of show night.
Well, speaking of conversation, Sheridan, you inhabit one of the most interesting characters, one of the few non-binary characters that we see in this kind of show, and you do it so effortlessly. You've created a space for conversation, particularly among communities that don't normally know how to have the conversation. They don't even know what the language should be. Can you talk a bit about how you built out Sid's character and what you think it brings to the show?
Well, first of all, really cool to be talking to you, Miss Abrams. Gotta throw that out there first and foremost. I think it's been such an honor to play Sid, and I knew that going into the role, it was an important character, and it was going to be very important for a lot of people. And obviously, you don't want to be thinking about that too much, like first season in. Because it could be a lot of pressure, but the thing about Sid and how Gloria and Mike have created this character is that Sid is just, to me, such a joy and just a funny, charismatic, goofy person. And so I feel like the outpouring from the non-binary community and the LGBTQ fans has been incredible to see, because I get a lot of messages that people feel like they're seeing themselves for the first time on TV, and that's like, I can't even handle those kinds of comments, because it gets me kind of emotional, you know, to play a character that so many people can identify with. And that, I mean, to me, Sid really does feel like a part of the family. I mean, the way that the Alvarezes accepted them, use the correct pronouns, the respect that there is for Sid on screen, I think is incredibly important and significant. And, you know, it's really been great to see how the relationship between Alana and Sid has played out as well. I mean, they're both activists. They take every holiday as an opportunity to go out, and, you know, they made Halloween a petition signing event. You know, Valentine's Day was about a heart healthy fun run. And I think that's great, because I think it reflects something about this generation and about young people who are really getting out there. And even though it's done in a comedic way, I think it taps on something larger about how young people are really wanting to get active now. And so, you know, I just feel really lucky to be playing such a great character and an amazing non-binary person.
Fantastic. Well, Raquel, you play a role in a show that is so intentionally about the Latinx identity. There has often been attention either imputed or real between the African American experience and the Latinx experience that in recent years has really come into being one of solidarity. And the role that you play of Nora, you, like so many of these characters, sort of effortlessly diversify the conversation without having to have speeches, although there are speeches. It's the moments that you inhabit. Can you talk about being the newest part of this Alvarez family and the relationship, not only that Nora has with Alex, but the real camaraderie we see between you and Marcel? Unless you hate each other in real life, so then keep
no, he's terrible. I don't even know I'm on this Zoom call right now. No, he's great. Yeah, I mean, being a newbie on the show, it was really nerve-wracking at first. I was really overwhelmed coming onto the Sony set and just first entering those doors onto the stage, and just immediately it was so warm and everybody was just so kind. And I remember that day, me and my mom went home and we just got in the car. We were like, whoa, why is everybody is just so nice, just genuinely a good environment to work in. And it just made me really excited to go to work the next day. So I think obviously for the amazing actors in the show, just making that environment to a new girl who just came in. These people have been working on the show for 4 years, and just feeling like I'm not an outcast has made a huge impact just right off the bat. So that was incredible. Playing Nora has been really great for me. I've been getting, like Sheridan said, DMs from people in Brazil and the UK who are Afro-Latina, who are African American, and being like, seeing you is seeing myself in that show. And that's just, it's still crazy to think about for me, having people really look up to me like that. Like, that's new for me. It makes me emotional as well. Like, that's just, it's crazy to have a platform to speak to these people. And especially right now with everything going on, if you have a platform, it's really important that you don't slow down, you keep going, because our feed's going back to normal, and it shouldn't be. And there's still so much that needs to get done. And we've come a long way in the past month. And so we got to keep going. We got to keep going. And I've got great following that understand that. And, there's always a few that will unfollow you, and I don't need you as followers then, So it's been great. And so playing Nora, especially, she's the first character on TV that has been nice. I normally play mean girls. So playing, I know, just so true to who I am in real life. It's been a real struggle. So no, she's great. She's just the best. Her style is it's not my style, but I like it. It's my style is on this end, and she's in pink on this end. And so it's really cool to play this completely different persona that still rings true to my life, and being able to show and being surrounded by amazing Latin X community. I'm Latina. A lot of people don't know that by looking at me until they meet my family, which is, we're all like this. So it really shows. I brought my abuela and my abuelo to set one day, and they were so excited to meet Rita. They were talking about it in the car the whole way up. They watched all of your things, and I was sitting with her, my abuela, and we were watching one of the scenes. I just remember she just started dying of laughter, and she started crying from laughter. And Rita looks at her, and my abuela is she's just going crazy. She's like, this is the best. I love this show. This is so funny. She loves the relationship between Steven and Rita. It's amazing. So seeing them, they're some of the most important people in my life. Just really be so into the show. All my cousins watch it now, and it's amazing. And so, and of course, being able to work with Marcel, us being the only 2 kids on set, we've got school together almost all the time. So just getting outside and being able to play soccer has been good too, to get some fresh air and just still be kids has been really great. And so I mean I'm so sorry that you had to go 3 seasons without me. I know that was hard for you, so I'm here now. Don't worry.
Yeah,
don't worry. I'm here.
I'll have someone to play basketball with now.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Can I say something before this is over?
Absolutely, please. Anytime you want.
I forgot to mention, because I was so busy talking about me, that I completely
and me.
But this is very important to me. Working with Justina as an actress has been one of the great privileges of my life. I think I've always felt from the get-go that Justina is just a superb actress. She can do any damn thing. And the damn problem is that people still see her as they see me, as a Latina, in quotes. And that limits some of the things she gets to do. But I simply want to say that the chemistry that she and I conjured up, just being who we are and reacting to each other, is delicious. There's nothing more wonderful than whenever we would find a new script each week that had us fighting about something. We delight in that. We are so good at that. And I just love her work. I love the way, as an actress, that she listens. She really, you know, people say that about certain actors, and I know that civilians say, well, what do you mean she listens? Of course she listens. No, there's something special about an actor who really listens as the character to the other character. And nobody listens like my darling Justina. Okay, you can leave now, honey.
Moreno, you're making Machado cry. She's gonna mess up her makeup.
I know. I have one little thing to say as well. I just want to say thank you to Gloria and Mike too. I mean, they're phenomenal. I've never met like people more warm and friendly and just really accepting. Being able to work on your guys' show, I have no words. And to learn from Rita Moreno and Justina Machado, I mean, that speaks for itself. And everything Rita just said is to a T. It's so true. And of course, Isabella, like, you're the sweetest person in the world. So thank you. Thank you. And
you know too, guys.
Started something.
So yeah, this whole cast is, and I remember on show night, my first show night, Todd, he left a note in my dressing room, and just knowing that you guys genuinely care about each other, and it's like, it is a family. It's just, I'm gonna get emotional. So thank you so much for bringing me in.
This is a family. There's no question. We are we are family. Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me join this family for this brief moment. I've got one last question I'm going to direct to Justina and to Gloria. And Justina, I just have to tell you, loved you as Vanessa on 6 Feet Under, by the way.
Thank you.
Guys, this is probably one of the best days I've gotten to have. But I'm going to direct this. Mike, think the world of your work, but I'm going to give this question to Justina and Gloria as we wrap up. I mean, this has been this is a great show, and I'm so glad that it has continued to thrive. And there are those who say that this has been its best season yet. And I think the complexity of the stories told and how it fits in this moment matters, but particularly given the context of the last 4 years and the importance of how the show has grounded not just the Latinx experience, but the notion of family as being more than just your blood. Can you talk, both of you, about how you not only see yourself situated in this conversation, but what you wish for America as we grapple with the questions of who we are and what we mean to each other and what we can become? So Justina, I'm gonna give it to you first, and then Gloria, you're gonna close us out.
Wow. I was hoping she'd go first, so I could just I think when Gloria said earlier, being Latina, being Latinx is political, I think that that just went poof to me. Because when we first started the show, we weren't out to be political. We were out to just tell our stories by us, interpreted by us, told by us. And then it just turned into something bigger and more beautiful than I could ever imagine. And I think Penelope is a combination of Gloria and myself. And without the Glorias in the world, then I couldn't be here. And without me, she couldn't, right? It's like this. The character Penelope is who I would love to be. I'm not her, I am Justina, but I would love to be the character of Penelope. And I think that if more people, if we were this family that was compassionate, that listened to each other, that spoke to each other, that had dialogue, that was accepting, that you know, just, I think the world would be in a better place. And I'm just really grateful that I get to be a part of something like that every week, or for the 13 episodes for the 4 seasons, to put something out into the world that is love, that is joy. This cast right here is because of Mike and Gloria and Brent and Norman. Even when sometimes we wouldn't see certain things, they saw it, you know, and so to be able to surrender also to the moment, to what's happening, and it's just been, and I don't even know if I answered your question, because Rita got me at another level, girl. I was at another level.
I understand.
Rita Moreno, because literally all I keep thinking about is that what she said, oh my God, we have similarities, because a lot has not changed, you know? So that is like, woof, right there, you know? It's like still a lack of opportunity, you know, a lack of stories being told about us, lack of being invited into the conversation. So this show just does everything to include us and to make our voices important.
That was so good. I would just add, I mean, look, I grew up, I mean, I'm so emotional being with all of you because I love you all so much. But, oh my gosh.
We love you too.
Whoa.
I just grew up in a house that nobody wanted to leave. People would come over and not want to leave my house.
That's still the case, by the way.
It is.
And it was so interesting that what I would see on TV about my community was so not reflective of what I knew it to be, which was a home that was accepting and loving. And to have grown up with 2 immigrant parents who came here with suitcases, not speaking this language, who learned how to watch TV by watching Norman Lear shows, and then to be in a seat of privilege where I get to make a Norman Lear show about them has been the greatest thrill of my life. And to be able to extend to the world this love I have for this community. I mean, we are a beautiful and vibrant people that have made this country so special, and to see continually that we are misrepresented and how that affects how people are treated directly, and to be able to say, we would like to throw this experience into the ring. We would like to throw in a loving immigrant family who's working their buns off, who are making mistakes, but who love each other and are trying to grow. What this show does is tries to do what I think so many of us are trying to do, which is build bridges with one another in your own family unit and with one another in this world. Because if we can truly achieve equality, then we can all have such a better time on this planet together. And this show is a celebration of that love. It's a celebration of the building of bridges that we hope to do with one another and with the greater world about who brown people are, what they represent in this country, and how beautiful and vibrant they make this world. And it just fills me with a joy I cannot express to be able to work with every single person you see on here, to right that wrong, to say this is who we are and this is what we're proud of. And it's the thrill of my life to be able to do it with these beautiful people. So building bridges, that's what we're trying to do with some comedy.
And on that,
Here.
Woo! I want to say thank you to the creators of this amazing show, to the writers, to the incredible cast, to the incomparable Rita Moreno, just because that means I get to say your name again, and to our friend and the person who writes the stories the world needs to see, creates the narratives so often, Norman Lear, to the Paley Center LA Fest. Thank you for letting me join you today. Thank you to City for being the sponsor. And most importantly, thank you to this community of actors and writers and producers. And most importantly, just loving good people. Thank you for bringing joy and complexity into our homes and creating space for both. Have a wonderful
Stacey,
day.
thank you so much for being with us.
We
What
love
a privilege.
Amazing.
Bravo, yay.
Thank you.